to the Watchin You podcast. Hi, Jeff and Jeff. Lydia Criss here. Can't wait to do the interview. Take care.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Watchin You. I'm Jeff Scott in St. John, New Brunswick, and joining me, our special guest tonight, all the way from Manhattan, New York, is none other than Lydia Criss. Hi, Lydia.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, we're finally getting some. We've had some technical difficulties, but I think right now we're just sailing along.
Okay, great.
So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about her new book, Sealed with a Kiss. Let's start with that. You've collected an awful lot of stories, photos, receipts. You've even got a little matchbook from Jeanette and Paul's wedding. And I noticed that tonight when I was looking at it. It said Jeanette and Ace's wedding, but it says Jeanette and Paul because that's his real name.
His real name, yeah.
That's right. You've collected an awful lot of stuff over the years. And the book was published in 2006. Why at that point in time? How did the book come about?
Well, I was talked into doing a book by the real diehard fans. I had no intention of doing a book. I was that wasn't my dream in life. It became a good decision. It took me a long time to actually do it. I did the manuscript. It took me about a year and a half while working a full-time job and being a photographer and, dealing with life. And then my publisher went bankrupt and went out of business. So I had to get everything back. And believe it or not, it took me until about 2004 to do that. And then I had everything in my hands. A lot of the stuff was already scanned. The poor guy wasn't paid for the scanning, so I paid him and worked with him. He's a great guy, Dave Snowden. He helped me find a design person, a graphic designer. Mm-hmm. And then I actually interviewed a few people that would edit the book, and I actually I made my decision and went with, believe it or not, the two guys that worked on Kiss Alive Forever. They have like all the shows that Kiss have ever played. And they've been my friends for many years anyway. So they became my editors, and they were surprised when they got my manuscript that there wasn't really that much they had to change. Mm-hmm. They were expecting the worst. And, I wasn't the stupid kid in school. I was pretty intelligent, and but English just wasn't my favorite. It was like in the middle, Mm-hmm. So I surprised them, and they basically fixed like the grammar and a few things that they thought were right and I thought were right, and we compromised with it. I was there, but they heard so many stories from different people that we disagreed. So we finally, got that together, and I would actually sit late at night and read back all their corrections and whatever they had to say. Mm-hmm. And that took about a whole year to actually do that and the design. Mm-hmm. So that was about 2006. Mm-hmm. And it was actually almost a year from the day we started till the day we finished. So, the in-between time, 2005, it was getting everybody in line, trying to figure out who to use, who not to use. Mm-hmm. And, basically that's it, picking lawyers, picking all the people that were, I worked with 4 guys, and I believe they literally know more about Kiss than I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big statement, but you mentioned lawyers, and that's interesting. I was curious to know, before you set out to do this, what are some of the legalities? I know that there are some photos in here that are not necessarily flattering, some that could be considered embarrassing. And did this go through Kiss and Peter Criss? Did everything get approved through them first?
No, not at all.
No?
No. Writing a book is your First Amendment right. Mm-hmm. And I talked to people that had written books, And like I said, I did go to three lawyers actually. Two lawyers were like a team. So they kind of walked me through what photos I could use and what I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And, that I had to worry about the logo,
Yeah,
with Gene and Paul.
that's right.
And they said, as far as the unflattering photos, I was concerned about that too.
Yeah.
And the lawyers said to me that if they posed for the photo, you could use it.
Why
So
not? They were there. They consented to having the photo taken.
right, exactly. So then I had another lawyer that only did the text. She read the whole text, and she advised me on a few things, but most of it was okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because and the thing that surprised me about the book, I knew it was a large book. It's a coffee table style book, which is bigger than say Ace and Peter's book. And I expected a lot of photos, which I got, but the text, I don't think I was expecting the story as thoroughly told as it was. And I remember I play in a band myself, and I was actually on a little road trip with the band, and this thing arrived just 3 minutes before I got in the car to leave. So I'm in my hotel room, and I've got this book, and I just couldn't put it down, and I'm reading the story, and I thought, this is the story from Lydia Criss, and I just couldn't put it down. My thought or my take on it is that it's probably a much more unbiased story, because I think the others are going to be biased with theirs, and I think that yours would come across as probably less biased. How would you see that?
Well, my book is absolutely the most honest book,
Mm-hmm.
and the most accurate.
Yes.
I'm not saying that Gene's book, that he lied in it, or that, but he's not as accurate. I mean, there were some things I read that were not true.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just minor stuff that doesn't really make a difference, one way or another. But there was things about. I mean, when I didn't read his book, but I actually just went to Barnes and Noble and looked for my name and seen what he wrote about me.
Yeah, exactly.
And the story he told about me was that story happened, but it didn't happen the way he told it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I wanted to make sure that I told everything the way it really happened. I mean, I understand I haven't been through what they've been through. So their memory is not going to be as good as mine. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I spent many years, away from that whole thing. I mean, I saw Eric Carr's first show and Eric Carr's last show, and I didn't see anything in between.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of was away from the business. I got remarried. I mean, my ex-husband was in the business, but it wasn't the Kiss business.
Yes.
And, it was most of the unmakeup years that I did not see. I just have a good memory. And because I wasn't, I notice now when I see people on Facebook and then I see them in person, it's like, I can't remember their names. It's like, but that was Peter's case back when he was 30.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a lot older than that right now. So that's what I attribute that to. But like I said, I really wanted a lot of people to see stuff they had never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And I had over 1,500 photos, including, little photos of matchbooks and or backstage passes and airline tickets. But it all has to do with the story that I'm telling at the time. And that's what I give credit to the design guy for, because he really put it all together. And I mean, not just the design guy. There was, they all worked together, but the design guy really, was in charge.
Mm-hmm. And the layout is amazing. I mean, every page is just, you're going to get a photo of the band in some way, but then you're going to get like a matchbook or a Visa receipt or a postcard that Peter sent to you when he was on the road. These things are just an absolute treasure chest of things for the Kissaholic. No doubt about it.
I know. I just did an expo 2 weeks ago in New Jersey, actually a week and a half.
Yeah, I think you met our friend Christine.
Everybody kept saying that my book is the best one out there.
It is. It truly is. I haven't opened my Kistory probably in quite a few years. I'd compare it to Kistory mainly because of the size, the format, the layout, all the pictures, and it's stuff that Kiss fans want to see. It's nice to sit down and read Ace's book or read Peter's book. and you get those little few glossy pictures in the middle. But it's
I
just
didn't want that.
no,
I really didn't want that kind of a book.
no,
I
it's
wanted it
different.
to look like a scrapbook.
And that's
Because
what it
that's what
is.
all the fans loved about. I used to bring my scrapbooks to the conventions,
Oh yeah.
what they were called conventions. The fans, I used to see their faces. They were like amazed at some of the things that I had in there. So I thought that would be a great way of, that's what I wanted my book to look like a scrapbook. I mean, history does in a way.
Yeah.
But history has a lot of stuff that you've already seen before.
Yes, and
My book has, like I said, almost 1,500 unseen photos.
oh, it's amazing, and Peter, it's really for the Peter Criss fan as well as the Kiss fan, because
Yeah.
you're including pictures of Peter back in the late '60s,
Yeah.
when he was playing with little bands around New York, meeting Gene Krupa, of course, you two getting married, which would have been around '66, I believe.
No, we met in 66.
Oh, you
We
met in
got married in
66.
70.
Okay, yeah, I was born in '66, so. I came on board around 1976, 77. I was 12 years old, and I saw the Kiss Paul Lynde special where Kiss
Right.
appeared, and I was hooked. I've been a Kiss fan ever
That's
since.
what a lot of fans tell me. That's what
Yes,
did it for them.
That's the time, because I think in those early years of Kiss, they were putting out records from Casablanca, and they were on tour. And unless you lived in a major city in the U.S. where you're going to see this band come through, I don't think on a nationwide, especially from Canada, I don't think really people knew about Kiss.
Well, they did go to a lot of places that most bands wouldn't go to.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being on holiday once in St. Martin, and I met some fans from North Canada that said they were so thrilled that Kiss would even think of coming to their city, their town, whatever whatever you call it. I'm not sure where they were from. Maybe I don't know, what is some of the islands up there?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure.
Newfoundland, maybe. Is Newfoundland up there, east?
Well, Newfoundland is my province where I'm from. It's the
Oh.
furthest most province of Canada. We certainly had no exposure to Kiss until we saw them on television, '76 doing Beth. And that's really what I saw was Peter Criss at the piano. I don't think he played the piano, did he?
No.
No. but singing Beth, and everybody just took notice of that. I mean, we talked about it at school, and did you see that guy with the cat makeup singing that song? And it was so cool, and oh, that's Kiss,
Well, I know I had been to Toronto and Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the two Canadian cities that I visited, and that was back in the 70s.
Yes.
And I loved it. I
Oh,
loved
yeah.
it there, especially Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Toronto is like being in England. Montreal is like being in France. It was
sure.
great.
Yeah. So I was just curious, how did you preserve all those photos and matchbooks and receipts for 35 years? You must have had a huge plastic tote box to keep it all preserved, and how did you organize
they
it all?
were all over the place. I had scrapbooks.
Really?
Yeah. The matchbooks, I have one big giant square box that I put all my matchbooks in.
Mm-hmm.
They're in pristine condition. And my parents had a home, and they had a room upstairs that it was in Brooklyn, and it was a 2-family house, and they rented out the top floor, and there was a room that they called it the spare room. So I would store all my stuff up there.
Mm-hmm.
At one point I had my dolls. Then when I moved to Connecticut, I brought everything over to Connecticut. And then when I moved back to Manhattan, I kind of left some of the stuff there, but I kind of had all the Kiss stuff here. I do have a basement here in Manhattan, and I kept a lot of it in boxes and plastic bins, like that you'd buy at the Container Store, or, like at Target, or I just, I had a lot of it. I have another room downstairs that I had, I remember going through all my stuff. And it was, when I met the publisher, he wanted he went through every picture and negative and blah, blah, blah. It was a very tedious job. It was really, really a lot of work.
Yeah, but so worth it. I mean, for the Kiss fan, this book is just a treasure trove of so many things. I understand your books are printed in Italy. I understand they do a better job than whoever did the History book.
Well, the history book fell apart,
It did.
and that's what I didn't want to happen to mine.
Yeah.
Now, I was given as one of my Christmas presents from my boyfriend, which I had requested, the Bill Wyman book, Rolling with the Stones.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's a big book also, but it's actually bigger than my book. And Bill Wyman is the Lydia Criss of the Rolling Stones, or I am the Bill Wyman of Kiss. You know, we save everything.
Yes.
And I loved his book. I loved the layout. And that's who I copied my book from, was Bill Wyman's book. The only thing I don't have is what they call sidebars. That's a term that the printers would know, or that the writers know. And I don't have those, but basically my book was copied from his. And I thank you, Bill Wyman. And I do love the Rolling Stones.
I haven't seen Bill Wyman's book. Have you read Peter and Ace's book?
Yes, I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have. I went to Brazil and took Ace's book with me at the time. He had just given it to me like maybe a week before.
Yeah.
And I said, perfect for the trip.
Yeah.
It's a long, flight. And plus all the, the lonely nights after it, nothing to do, because I'm a late person. And, I would stay up reading the book. And then I also read it on the way back and finished it on that flight. I loved Ace's book, but I know most of the stories, and I think Ace played it safe. He wasn't too mean to anybody.
No, no, and I think he was. I enjoyed Ace's book just for the style. He had such a unique outlook on. I wish I could bring up something, but I don't know, just the story of how his father saw some man who had been electrocuted working on power lines or something.
I remember that, yeah.
I can't remember how the story went or how it ended, but I thought, what a unique way to open it, because it was almost a metaphor for Ace's life, and the whole book was just full of these really interesting and bizarre and alternative ways of looking at life, and I really enjoyed Ace's book, and I said, this is such a great read. I don't know how much of that was Ace's insight or maybe his co-writer, but I enjoyed Ace's much more than Gene's or Peter's.
Yeah, Peter's is a little bit out there.
Mm-hmm.
Peter's he likes to exaggerate, and I'm sure that first story about almost killing himself
it was around 95. He was in his apartment during an earthquake.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a contradiction there where he said at one point that his daughter's photo was the only thing standing, and then he also said it was knocked down. So I'm not sure, but I didn't go back and read it again. But I know Peter's an exaggerator. He's a little delusional. His mother said he should have been an actor and not a musician.
Well, he did get to act.
A lot of the things he said were, I believe, him getting even with some of the unflattering photos of him in my book.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a wife that is not very fond of me. So I'm sure she is very much in control. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure a lot of the stuff was, egged on by her. Yeah. But, that's Peter. I know him. I've known him for so long. It's just, I just take it, with a grain of salt. I did read the book, and I didn't read the whole thing, because towards the end it started getting a little weird and I started getting bored. Not only that, I wasn't around at that time, so I can't really say whether it's true or not. I don't know anything past when I was with him. So anything after we got divorced is basically,
yeah,
I mean, I can't dispute it.
Yeah.
So
I just pulled mine off the shelf, and my bookmark is about halfway through. So I didn't finish it either. But I'm assuming that, I think when I left off, he was talking about leaving the band around the time of Dynasty. So I thought, well, that's kind of where the story ends. But then I realized, well, he had a second stint with Kiss in the '90s. So I'm in the middle of a film project right now. But when that's over, something I plan to do, of course, is to sit down and finish Peter's book. And of course, I have a new one called Nothing to Lose.
I got that too.
Yeah, I have to read that one as well.
I have photos in there.
Yes, you do. You get photo credits in that book.
Yeah. Actually, I'm friends with Ken Shaw.
Okay.
So, I actually gave them to them just, so, because they belong in that book.
Oh, for sure.
You know, the beginning of, the era
Yeah.
that
You must have photos in history as well, I'm sure.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I have photos in the back of history.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of I had a little bit of a tiff with Gene at one point. I was selling photos and he didn't want me selling them, but I didn't know it until, I
Mm-hmm.
hear from his lawyers.
Yeah.
And then we got on the phone and we were talking and, he said, I guess you don't want to be interviewed for the book. So I wasn't interviewed for the book, but at the end, a lot of the photographers, I work for a photo agency, I did. And a lot of the photographers wanted to get paid X amount of dollars for the photos. And Gene goes, no, this is what I'll do. I'll pay this amount and you tell me how many to use. So one photographer says, okay, you could use 2. The other one says you could use 1. I said, use whatever you want as long as it's already been in print.
Yeah.
So he did a collage in the back.
Yeah.
And those are all my photos.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were taking, and you took a lot of photos, you really did. When you were taking these photos, let's say around the time of 72, 73, when they're just putting on their makeup, they're playing I think Coventry the first time, or the Daisy. When you were taking these pictures, did you have any kind of a hunch or a feeling that you were photographing something historical?
No. At the time, believe it or not, I had a little tiny Instamatic camera. It was like a $20 camera. My girlfriend gave it to me for my 16th birthday, and that's the camera I had. But my mother always took pictures. My uncle was a professional photographer, and I just like to have the photos for posterity.
Yeah.
And I always said, when we're old and gray and we're sitting on our rocking chairs in front of the fireplace, we can look at the scrapbooks and everything. But let me tell you, one guy came up to me out of nowhere, and I'm not even sure what club we were in. We might have been in the Daisy.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and he said, someday you're going to make a lot of money off those photos. And
I've heard that.
It was an older man.
Yeah.
It was an older man, and I don't know who he was, and I don't know who he is to this day.
It was probably Gene Simmons at the age of 95, and he's invented the time machine, and he went back to the Daisy in 1972. That's a good story. I just find, again, if you're a Peter Criss fan, the book just says so much about him, and just little things. Like, I found interesting that he wore his jeans so tight that he used a drumstick to poke his underwear.
Yeah, that was when he used to wear underwear.
Oh, when he...
It got to the point where he stopped wearing underwear. Yeah. Now, he used to wear boxer shorts, so he had to push them in with the drumsticks.
Yeah, but there's a dark side to Peter as well, and I think we all know him as the cat, and we know that cats have this ferociousness to them, and that certainly comes through in your book. I guess you certainly revealed that side of Peter, that he wasn't always a pussy cat at home. Right. Yeah. Can you elaborate on anything there?
Well, it was basically, I would say, alcohol and drugs that, would change his disposition. Peter could be the sweetest guy in the world, but yet, at a drop of a dime, he could, change. I think that was probably the breakup of our marriage, was because of drugs.
Yeah.
I was, I'm not saying I'm an angel, but I was an angel before I met him. I come from a strict Italian family, and I never did a drug before I met him. Mm-hmm. And, there were, times where I would say it's enough, and he wouldn't feel it was enough. Mm-hmm. So.
And I guess that came with, I think some people have described Kiss as being an overnight success. There came a moment when the money just started flowing in big time. Yeah, they certainly spent a lot of years on the road. I guess hoping that their albums would sell and hoping that their tickets would sell, and then all of a sudden, Kiss Alive goes double platinum, triple platinum, and then the money started rolling in. Did the drugs come with the money and the fame?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep, because it was. Well, the thing is the fame, and everybody wants to turn you on. Everybody wants to buy you a drink. Yeah. Everybody, so it's, they could say, wow, I bought Peter Criss a drink. I did some drugs with Peter, so it was always there. Yeah. After every show. I mean, it wasn't easy to, to deal with. There was always a party in Peter's
Mm-hmm.
room.
Yes, yeah. And Gene and Paul didn't want any part of that.
No,
And
absolutely not.
that must have been difficult. I was reading something recently. I don't know if maybe it was your book or something else I was reading. And I thought to myself, Ace Frehley seems like such an odd fit. When I mean, I've never met Gene and Paul or Ace or Peter. I've met Tommy and Eric, but anyway, knowing what I know about them, I find that Ace and Peter are such an odd fit, and I'm almost surprised that Gene and Paul decided to work with Ace. What was the climate like around 72, 73 when it was just forming and coming together?
Well, they did a lot of rehearsing without Ace before they even started auditioning for a guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started auditioning, and they must have auditioned. I mean, Peter, but then again, Peter's an exaggerator, but he said about 100 guitar players. I think it may have been about 50.
Okay.
But there was a lot of nights. I worked in Manhattan, so I would go down after work. I would, go to the loft where they rehearsed and hang out. But I didn't go when they were auditioning guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I just didn't. Maybe I was busy making some costume or something.
Yes.
I don't know, but I didn't go, and I don't remember, any of the guys. I know Bob Kulick was one of the potentials.
Well, they
But
almost
then I
hired
know
Bob.
Peter came home one day and he says, I think we found the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, really? And he says, yeah, he's Asian.
Yeah.
And I said, he's Asian? And he says, yeah, I told him my wife makes great Chinese food. And I said, oh, wow, I can't wait to meet him. Meanwhile, Ace is not Asian at all.
No.
He's half German and half American Indian.
That's right. Yeah.
So, basically, that was, my introduction to Ace. And then they would rehearse, and that's when I got to know Ace.
Mm-hmm.
Back actually it was late 72.
Yes, yeah. I guess it was the sound and the chemistry. Again, I find that Ace's style and lifestyle just seems so opposite to Gene's lifestyle. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From where I look at it, after having read so many books and knowing so much about the band, I'm almost surprised that Ace had a good 8 or 9 years in the band.
I'm not sure if Gene at the beginning knew Ace's lifestyle or knew Peter's lifestyle.
Okay.
Like they might have hid that for a while. I don't know. And then eventually, like I said, as the money started coming in, it got worse and worse.
Yes, yeah. Because then Ace has someone doing everything for him.
Yeah.
He's got someone tuning his guitars. He's got someone, I play in a band, and I always say to myself, the ideal gig would be where I, shower, and then I get in my limousine. I show up, someone hands me a Les Paul. I play it, and when I'm done, I hand the Les Paul back to the person. But that's not the reality. I have to lug amplifiers and speakers, and I'm doing what Kiss did in '73.
Well, Peter did that. We there were times where I helped break down the drums.
Yes.
Just to be able to get home a little early, and then we'd have to take a train an hour from Manhattan into Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So
and they certainly paid their dues, and I've heard Peter say this on so many occasions. He said, we paid our dues, and I think he's a little bit bitter at some of the musicians who are in Kiss that didn't pay the same kind of dues.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, on my revised edition of my book, I added 16 pages of gigs that Peter played before he was in Kiss, and a few of them at the beginning of Kiss, but not with management. I stopped when when management took over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a few years that I didn't keep records, but there's a lot. He played a lot. I was even amazed myself that he played so many gigs before making it with Kiss. And I kind of met him when he was with his first band.
Mm-hmm. And I think the impression I've gotten from reading some of these books is that Peter was sort of the experienced, and Paul and Gene were the new kids on the block, and they kind of looked to him, as the experience. He was certainly older than the other members of Kiss, and he was the experienced one, and he had been the leader in so many other bands.
Yes.
I could almost see him and Gene Simmons kind of butting heads from time to time on leadership or management or artistic differences. Did you see anything like that happening?
Um, yeah. Peter always felt that, he should have more songs on an album, and Gene and Paul, or he should have a song on an album. There was
Mm-hmm.
a time when, there wasn't, I don't think he had any, but, um, he also wanted to sing more, because when he was in the bands that I remember him from, he basically sang a lot. And for a drummer, that's unusual. He was, most of the time, the the leader of all those bands. So,
Mm-hmm.
at this point, Gene wanted to be the leader. And I mean, Gene took over. He did do a lot. I mean, I give him credit. He was like the secretary that did everything for Kiss. He worked in an office, and he
Mm-hmm.
had, access to typewriters and mailing machines and stuff like that. So he did all the invitations and all the press stuff. But we had friends that did printing. So we had friends that would, help us with the posters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was a little butting of the heads, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The story goes that I love Peter's voice. I really do. His voice when it appears on earlier Kiss albums, it's just so rough and scratchy and Rod Stewart like, and it was a great fit for the band. I just as soon listen to Peter than Gene. And I think there was the joke in the early days that Peter wanted more songs to sing more songs on the album, and Gene and Paul said, "Well, maybe we can have a night with your wife." Did that actually happen?
Yes.
Yes, they
Yes.
said that.
Yes. Yes. Peter, he wanted to sing some songs, and usually when you write a song, you sing it.
Yes.
And because he didn't have any songs written,
Mm-hmm.
they said, "Sure, you could sing one of our songs. Just give me your wife for the night."
Were they half serious, totally joking, or somewhat serious?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
It didn't please Peter, that's for sure.
No, for sure. And I know that the songs he sang a lot of Ace songs in the early days, but he also got Black Diamond away from Paul, and he got Hard Luck Woman away from Paul, and I believe that there was a little bit of tension over those.
Nothing to lose.
Nothing to, well, yeah, he sang backups on Nothing to
Backup,
Lose.
yeah.
But I think Black Diamond, I don't think Paul was ready to give up that one
I know.
so quick. Yeah.
He wasn't ready to give up Hard Luck Woman either.
No, he wanted that one. I think he wanted to sell that one to Rod Stewart,
Well, he wanted to, but
Yeah.
but once Eddie Kramer heard it,
yeah,
was the producer.
yeah,
Eddie Kramer said, "Oh no, we're going to do this one." And he says, and then when I guess I wasn't at the rehearsals, but I heard that Eddie Kramer said, "Let Peter sing this one. I think he would do the best job."
yeah. And I mean, it's just amazing. One of the first albums I got was double platinum. I was a little bit late buying the albums, but I mean, when I played that and just the sound of that 12-string acoustic coming through my parents' speakers, I just played that one over and over and over. I mean, some of the songs didn't catch on me as quickly, but Beth and Hard Luck Woman, I guess I have
Hard
a
Luck
soft
Woman was
side.
one of my favorites. Yeah.
It's just a beautiful song, and his voice, wow, so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about Beth for a little bit, and just something popped in my head just then. Have you seen somebody made sort of a comic video?
Yes.
Have you seen that where
I've seen it. I've
shows
seen it, yeah.
Kiss in the studio?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
phone rings, and it's apparently you, but she calls herself Beth.
Well,
And
she's blonde and she has children, and she was a
yes,
smoker and a drinker, and I
yeah.
wasn't any of those.
But it's quite humorous, and I guess they hired some kind of a Kiss tribute lookalike band to do this, and
Yeah,
and,
I
and
thought it was hysterical.
yeah, and Peter comes in. It's like the recording engineer says, "Peter, you want on the phone?" And then everything he says to her questions is the lines from
The lines
the song.
from the song. Yeah.
It's just hilarious. So
Yeah.
Beth was originally Beck. I mean, it was written by Stan Penridge and Peter Criss. Like, who had more words written in that song?
Well, I would assume that Peter might have wrote more of the words and Stan wrote the music, because Stan was a guitar player and
Right.
he read music, whereas Peter didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Peter meeting me in Chinatown once, and he said, we wrote this great song called Beck. And I'm going, okay. He said, but it's about Rebecca. Now, I said, Rebecca was the wife of the guitar player, the rhythm guitar player in Chelsea. And Stan at that point was in Chelsea. Yeah. He was in the band. And it was a sort of a nasty song, like, you know, Beck, we hear you calling, but I'm not coming home tonight. You know, me and the boys are playing, and you know, so in other words, like, when I get finished, I'll be home. You know, she was a little annoying, you know, calling up all the time. I don't remember this because I didn't go to their rehearsals. I was working at the time, so I didn't go to Chelsea for some reason. Whereas I know why, because Chelsea's rehearsals a lot of time were in Brooklyn, and I worked in Manhattan. So that's why I did go to the Kiss rehearsals, because I only worked about 20 blocks away. I would sometimes walk from work, you know, to the rehearsals. And so then they want, you know, Bill Coyne, you know, Peter says, I want a song on the album. I want a song on the album. They said, well, present one to us. And so he presented Beck, and they didn't like it. They didn't want to do it. They, you know, it was a ballad. They said, no, this ain't us. Bill Coyne said, I want it on the album. And so they did it, but they said, we can't call it Beck because of Jeff Beck.
Yes.
And I remember distinctly being in a limo. See, this is another one of Gene's stories where he takes credit, but I named the song, and I said Beth only because it's very close to Beck. And also Neil Bogart had a wife called Beth.
Right.
And all right, Neil's wife was a twin, and so was Beck. They were both twins. So I kind of put that all together, and I said, why don't you call it Beth? And Neil Bogart didn't like the song either. But they said, that sounds like a great idea. Now, Gene, I remember being in a limo talking to Peter and Gene at the time. And there might have been one of the other guys. I'm not sure. But Gene always takes credit for it. But I named the song.
That's amazing. And I believe you penned one of the lines?
Yeah, the when I stopped working, which was in November of '75, when Alive went gold, they said, from now on, you know, first of all, move to the city, go look for an apartment. And we were living in Brooklyn in a small place. He said, you know, it's too far from the city, and eventually you're going to kill each other because it's so small. And I said, okay, you know, so we went, and they started paying the bills. And I paid the rent up until the end of '75. So I kind of felt like my job wasn't there anymore. I felt empty, that that the house wasn't my home. And then all of a sudden it's in the song.
Wow.
You know, so
that's great.
When they redid the song to make it a nice song with Bob Ezrin. And Bob Ezrin gets some of the credit too, because
well, all that orchestration is just so beautiful. And the only time you hear a guitar is at the very end. Was it Ace or Paul? Someone just strums a C chord just down through the guitar very lightly at the end of it.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. I'll have to listen to that next time.
That's the only guitar you hear in it, you know. And to me, the People's Choice Award, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes, but I mean, you know, they really identified Kiss as having this big song. It's the big song for Kiss. But, you know, I mean, what did really Gene and Paul and Ace have to do? You know, it's Peter and Stan and Bob and all those musicians and cellists and violinists.
Yeah, well, that's what when we were going to Japan, I thought it would be very nice to thank everybody for making it possible for me to go to Japan with them, because you know, that's a pretty hefty airline ticket. And you know, I thought it was very nice that they allowed it, and so I figured, let me start with Gene. I'll thank him. I went up to Gene, and Gene says, don't thank me, thank Beth. It made it possible for all of us to go to Japan.
Wow.
So, you know, I mean, that's when I actually said, well, then I guess I shouldn't thank anybody else. You know, I was finished.
I had, when I was about 12 years old, I bought a Kiss magazine off the shelf. I was a diehard, and in the back of the magazine had a little bio sheet of each member. And I mean, I know all their birthdays. I mean, I know so much about these guys. It's ridiculous. But anyway, it said marital status, and it said Ace is married to Jeanette, and Gene is single, Paul is single. And then for Peter, it says he's married to Lydia. And then in parentheses, for whom he wrote the song Beth. You figure it out. Do you ever remember seeing that in one of the magazines?
Not really.
No, it was a Grooves. It's a Grooves magazine.
I used to get grooves. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was a data sheet, and it said,
Was it in my handwriting?
no,
A lot of
no,
times
I know.
I would rewrite Peter's writing because he wasn't too neat. His penmanship wasn't too neat, and neither was his spelling.
Yeah, yeah. No, this was just sort of a bio sheet on each member,
Oh,
and it
okay.
mentioned you by name for whom he wrote the song Beth, and then in parentheses, you figure it out. So we looked at that, and my friends, and we thought, okay, we know he has his wife Lydia, but how do you get Beth from Lydia? And
I
that
know a
was
lot of people think my name is Lydia Beth,
okay, yeah. And I mean, that was just
my middle name, but
that was a
it's not.
mystery for decades until we watched one of the home videos, and Gene Simmons explains the whole Beth thing.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. But do you find yourself sometimes in your car and you turn on your '70s channel or something, and all of a sudden that D minor chord comes out on the piano, and you're saying, "Oh, there we are." It must.
Actually, you know what happened? I've actually, I don't know if I've ever heard Beth on the radio in my car. I've heard it
No.
on music,
Yeah.
and in New York they didn't play too much of Kiss. They play more of Kiss now. Well, I'd say maybe in the '90s they were playing more of Kiss than I um, ever remembered hearing Kiss in the '70s in New York. I do. Um, remember, wait, what was I just going to say? I mean, I did hear it on music, but I do remember, yeah, the one time as soon as I heard that first note
Mm-hmm.
on American Idol,
Oh, really?
uh,
Yeah.
when Kiss was on that night, and I can't remember the guy that sang it,
I
but
think
it
it's
was
Adam Lambert.
Adam Lambert. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
And I started calling everybody up. I was so excited. I said, it's about time, because I thought the Soul Patrol guy should have sang it because he had a raspy voice.
Okay. Yeah.
I forgot his name
I don't
also.
remember. My wife's a huge Adam Lambert fan, so and she had the show on. I was probably doing something on my laptop, and all of a sudden I heard it as well, and I look up, and he's doing Beth. And
Yeah.
the format of that show was these contestants would sing something solo, and then they'd introduce Aerosmith or whoever.
Actually, that was a great show because
Yeah.
we had Rod Stewart, Queen, and
Yes,
Kiss. And
Queen.
Rod
Yeah.
Stewart's my favorite, and Queen's my favorite.
Exactly. And then he finishes. He only sings like a verse and a chorus or a bit of Beth.
Well, they don't let you sing the whole song.
That's right. And then he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, Kiss." Well, I just stood up and went right to the TV set.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you a Kiss fan?
Um, I never really was. I have I am more so now, believe it or not, than I
Yeah.
was, only because I appreciate their songs a lot more now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few favorites, and some of them I could care less about. Look, I mean, I love Strutter. I love Hard Luck Woman, Beth.
Mm-hmm.
I Was Made for Loving You. Do You Love Me? There's a few that I really like, and then there's some of the stuff with Forever.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I think Eric Carr played on his last video.
When the boys play Madison Square Garden, I mean, do you just go on in and say, "Hey, how's it going?" and sit down like old chums? I mean, how receptive are they to you when you approach the band? Do you go to their shows?
Oh,
Do you go backstage?
of course, I was,
Oh,
especially when I stopped working,
yeah.
I would go, to a lot of the shows. I mean, I'd go on the road for, at least once a month for approximately 1 to 2 weeks. But like when we were in Japan, that was a whole month. And I would go to every single show.
Mm-hmm.
I would be backstage, and I just knew to leave them alone while they were getting dressed and putting their makeup on.
Right.
And, there were plenty of people backstage. So I was just entertaining everybody else,
Yeah.
talking to friends, talking to family, talking to the opening act, whatever.
Um,
So
it must have been quite an experience. I mean, to go to Japan and just see, this man that you've married to transform into this cat, and then have, screaming Japanese teenagers chanting his name. I mean, it must have been like a roller coaster ride.
it really was. But you want to know something? I think I'm more impressed now than I was then, only because I was involved in it, and it's hard to see outside the box
Mm-hmm.
when you're in it.
Yes.
And everything happens, but it happens gradually. So everything starts building up. But now it's 40 years later and they're still on top. They're still doing it. And it just,
Yeah.
I saw them in Finland. I think that was the most amazing stage I have ever seen in rock and roll, period.
Was it the Monster
Not
Show?
just for Kiss, the Monster Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw them just in July. They were here in July.
Yeah, they did Canada right after Europe. And
Yeah.
Finland was one of their first
Yeah.
shows. I saw them in June. And luckily, believe it or not, they had given, I was with Richie Scarlett and his wife. Richie worked, played guitar for Ace.
Ace, yeah.
And we were given tickets to stand downstairs, and we didn't really want to stand downstairs. We wanted to sit.
Mm-hmm.
So we traded, believe it or not, one of the Finland fans for 3 of the tickets, and they gave us theirs, and theirs were all the way up at the top of the venue. Which I am so grateful for, because I got to see the show in a way I never got to see Kiss.
Because you're too close.
Yeah, I was always either on stage or maybe on the side of the stage where the promoter seats are. That was it. I remember being there in Los Angeles, but most of the time I was next to the sound guy.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to see the show that way, but every now and then I'd ask to be back by the monitors, the monitor men all the way in the back, that in the middle of the audience. But it wasn't too often that I was, able to do that. I had to make sure somebody would watch me. That Peter was afraid that somebody might steal me. But when I was in Finland, let me tell you, I sat on, and I had this little camera, a point and shoot. I mean, it was a digital camera, so it was good. Yeah. And I got the amazing shots, just amazing. Great. It was, I really enjoyed seeing them from that distance.
Yeah. And when you see Kiss today, I mean, do Gene and Paul allow you to come backstage, or are they friendly with you, or how would they?
Well, the funniest thing is I haven't seen Gene or Paul face to face since they were doing the Kiss convention tour, which was '95.
Yes.
I didn't ask to go backstage in Finland only because I wasn't offered, and I figured, well, if they didn't, see. But then again, they don't even know who approves half of the stuff that that I was given the tickets, But anyway, I was talking to Tommy Thayer. I just saw him at the last Kiss Expo, and he said, "If you were in Finland, why didn't you come backstage?" And I said, I get a little shy. And he goes, "Oh, don't be silly. They would love to see you."
Yeah.
So, I mean, even Eric Singer told me that, Gene always talks nice about me. I mean, I'm going to be in their movie, their documentary.
Yes, I saw some pictures online. The director is Alan Parker.
Yes.
Not the same Alan Parker that did Pink Floyd The Wall. But yeah, we're looking forward to seeing that for sure.
Yeah. They came over here. They interviewed me for about 4 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's exciting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and they said I did a really good job. So I'm happy.
Well, you're a real sweetheart to talk to. There's no doubt about it. And I'm sure that I'm sure that Gene and Paul have pleasant memories of you being part of the Kiss camp and the Kiss organization in the 70s and
well, I was always very supportive of them.
Well, I mean, to make costumes for them, that's support. Right.
Well, I didn't make the really heavy duty costumes, but I did make T-shirts and I made some of Peter's stuff and that type of stuff. My mother would make him his jacket, I'd make him his pants.
Yes.
And like his hot pants and stuff, but it was in the very early days. Once management came along, that's when professionals, real professionals started making their outfits.
Yes, and then you have outfits that cost thousands of dollars to make, and they make 2 and 3 versions of it. And
yeah.
And I guess that's where you just kind of step back and watch this whole roller coaster ride.
That's when I sat there for the first dress rehearsal and literally cried.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. The first dress rehearsal, I saw that it was at the Fillmore.
Uh-huh.
And I saw it was before the Fillmore show that all the
in San Francisco,
all the radio people were invited to.
Okay.
One that everybody knows in January. This was actually the end of December, and I just sat there and cried because I said they're going to make it.
Oh yeah.
They are really going to make it. I mean, the theatrics were a little bit in place. That Sean Delaney had worked with them, and I sat all by myself in like the other end of the Fillmore, like not where I normally would sit, where they could see me. I was like hiding on the side, and I literally started crying.
Wow, because you saw something happening.
Yeah.
What this question here? My wife actually, she was out for a while. She came in. She says, "Here's a great question to ask her." She wanted to know what was your best moment as being the wife of a rock star, and what was your worst moment?
Okay, I have a few best moments, so I have to say all three. There's three of them.
Sure.
One was going to Japan.
Uh huh.
That was a thrill for me. The other was standing on Madison Square Garden stage
Yes.
and seeing all the fans cheering for them, and also all the way in the back of the garden, somebody had a sign that says "We love Lydia,"
Wow.
and then another person had a sign that just said Beth, just
Cool.
Beth.
Cool.
And I thought that was, a thrill. And then my probably my biggest thrill was
Yes.
accepting the People's Choice Award.
That was your big famous moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
seen that. Yeah.
we were actually in Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason the People's Choice Award wants to tell you that you're going to win only because they want you to show up.
Yes.
So that's why, like, most of the people that accept their own awards, I mean, people that are there accept their own awards. They don't send somebody to accept it for them.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, they only tell you 10 days before, or maybe 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
And Bill Coyne came over to us with the paper from Army Archer, I think his name was. He ran the People's Choice Award, and he said, you're going to win the People's Choice Award. And I'm sitting at a table backstage in Detroit with Gene and Peter, and we said, what? We're going, what? And then they started talking. Then Gene goes, well, how are we going to do that? We're booked in Fargo, North Dakota. See, that was that was a little bit of a dispute where the people that I worked with on my book they said it wasn't Fargo. It was a different place. It was the venue was changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, as far as I remember, it was Fargo. So that was, that's one of the things that we had a little discrepancy of. But anyway, they said, and plus, how are we going to sit in the audience with the makeup on? That's a little, uncomfortable. And I just, as a joke, I just said, I'll accept it. And Gene said, okay. And I freaked. He said, okay. Did I hear right? And I had 10 days to get hair, makeup, an outfit, and courage together.
Yes. I think the courage might have been the hardest thing.
I literally lost 10 pounds in 10 days because I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
And they say, TV puts 10 pounds on you. So I said, I have to lose 10 pounds. I would eat an egg a day. That was it. That's all I would eat was one egg.
Well, you looked great, and I mean, you just
and some protein powder, like Slim Fast or something like that.
Yeah,
to give me some energy. But
there's an interesting story about Gene Simmons was upset with you over a photograph that you had sent to Circus Magazine.
He was a little bit upset. The thing is, all right, I just had accepted the People's Choice Award. Mm-hmm. We were on our way to Japan, and Liz Derringer, Rick Derringer's wife, worked for Circus, and she wanted to do an article on rock wives. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know any better. I said, I'll do the article. So she interviewed me, and she said, could you send me a picture? So I sent a picture of me, I believe it was 6 months earlier when we were in Europe. I think it was Sweden or one of the Scandinavian countries. And it was me and Peter in a dressing room backstage. And he had his makeup on, and I was just wearing an outfit, and then I had, some my aviator glasses on, and he just hated the way I looked. He said, you should have told me, we would have done a photo session just for you. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm not a mind reader. I didn't know that, and I would have loved to have done a photo session just for me, but, I apologized. I said, next time I know.
Well, the photographs I see of you in this book are, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Peter had a stunning wife. In the 70s, you're incredibly lovely in all of the photos, and I don't think you could take a bad photo. So I don't know.
It's funny because some of them I didn't like.
Yeah.
And I said I have to put them in anyway, because I have to show the good and the bad,
For sure. But, I mean, everybody wakes up in the morning with their hair not perfect. And
right. Well, Bob Gruen once said to me, Bob Gruen is the photographer that did Dress to Kill.
Yes.
And he once says to me, don't ever throw away a photo that you don't like, because 10 years later, you're going to love it.
Oh, for sure.
Meaning once you get older.
Jeanette Fraley, what was she like to hang out with in Japan?
Jeanette was my sidekick. We would always go shopping. We had, believe it or not, they were so nice to us in Japan. They gave us um, a girl to take us around Japan. Her name was Yoko, believe it or not.
Yoko?
A little Japanese girl, really, really sweet. And she would take us shopping wherever we wanted to go. We wanted to go to a temple. She would take us to a temple. We wanted to go for tea. We went for tea. You know, she would take us wherever we wanted to go. And she traveled with us. She went from town to town with us. And she was our girl. So basically, and we also had Wally Meyrowitz's wife with us, Lori. She was, Wally was the guy that was in charge of booking Kiss, and from ATI Booking Agency. So he was our guy, and Jeff Franklin owned the company, but Wally was our guy. So he came to Japan with us, and so there was the three girls and then Yoko. So the four of us traveled. I think there's a picture of us in the book.
Yeah, there's lots of pictures of you and Jeanette and Yoko exploring Japan and having a good time. Yeah.
The guys weren't allowed to go out because they would have been stormed. We did go out with them once or twice to a very famous toy store. And believe it or not, I couldn't call Peter by his name.
No.
I had to call him George, which is his middle name.
That's right, Peter George Kriskula.
Yeah, and but the thing is, the fans knew because they're so tall compared to the Japanese people.
Exactly, and I mean, they don't look Japanese.
They don't look Japanese, right?
They could certainly wander through Detroit or Des Moines, Iowa,
right,
in 1975, and no one would know who they were. Probably
we used to go to the malls all the time.
Yeah.
In America, but in Japan it was a little harder.
Yeah, and everyone knew that Kiss were in town, so
right,
when
exactly.
you see these tall guys with long, dark, curly hair and big boots, yeah, you know it's them.
Of course, yeah, because they were aware. We did actually go to a flea market on the other side. It took us about an hour to get to it. The other side of Japan, and I remember we went in what was considered a limo, but it was like the size of our taxi cabs. So that's how small it was. But we got there. The guys went off to a World War II regalia store, and me and Jeanette shopped for little trinkets and souvenirs.
Yeah, and Ace had bought some interesting Nazi regalia. Ace
is a very big Nazi fan. I mean, he is German, so he collects the stuff.
Well, we heard the stories, and I looked through your book, and then I see the pictures. I said they really did dress up in Nazi regalia. Even Paul is wearing it.
I know.
They went to Gene's door and knocked on Gene's door, and he answered it and looked at them. And
no, that's actually not true.
Oh, that's not true.
Gene writes it that way.
Okay.
What actually happened was Gene knocked at our door, and Paul answered the door.
Oh, okay.
It's the reverse. Gene, see, that's the thing where, like there's little things that really don't, I mean, it's not going to change the story that much, but it's not the real accurate story.
Yeah, because you almost get the impression that they dressed up and said, oh, let's go really rattle Gene's cage, because we all know where Gene's mother came from and what she had gone through. Let's just dress up like Nazis and go knock on his door. I mean, that's kind of the impression that you get.
Well, you want to know something? They might have called. I know that would be their style.
Yeah.
But they might have called him and said, "Come on over. We have something to show you."
Yeah.
That's what might have happened.
Okay.
And then he did. He knocked at the door, and Paul answered it, and he says, "Oh my God, I'm getting out of here. I'm out of here. I'm not even. You wouldn't even come in."
Yeah, and the photos are there in the book, and I mean, like I say, we've heard the stories, and now there's the photos. I said, "Oh my God, I can't believe these. We're actually seeing these photos. It's amazing to see that."
I've spoken to some people that like even Bruce Kulick says, "Oh my God, why'd you put that in there?" Like Paul's going to be so embarrassed, and I said, "Look, I'm only the photographer."
Yeah,
it's like I was told to take the picture.
Yes, yeah. Do you see Jeanette these days? Do you keep in contact?
I haven't seen Jeanette for a long time. She lives on the West Coast now. I live on the East Coast, and I don't even know what her address is. But I heard she wasn't doing too well at one point, but I heard she's doing much better now. The last time I spoke to Jeanette was right before my book came out, and she said, "Let's get together," and then we never did. So.
Okay. Do you talk to Ace? I'm a big Ace. I'm a big Ace fan, so I'm going to become. Not an interviewer right now, but I'm going to become a gushy Kiss fan. And
I do talk to Ace, but not too often since he moved west. Also,
he's out west.
He's on the West Coast now too.
Yep.
I spoke to him probably 6 months ago via email and on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
He'll call me, but the thing is, you can't call Ace because his what is it? The voicemail is always full, and you can't even leave a message.
Yes.
So he does that purposely because I said, Ace, I can't even leave a message. He goes, all the time. It's always full. But he says, email me. He said, why don't you just text me? And I said, I don't text. He goes, oh, old school.
And I mean, how do you guys find each other? I mean, I couldn't find Ace Frehley if I wanted to. And then, I mean, you guys are old chums from the old days. I mean, I guess they offer you their private emails and their phone numbers and.
Well, I actually have a friend, John, that works for Ace. He's been a friend of mine for many, many years, and he works for Ace. So a lot of times I go through John.
Yes, you'd have to go through someone.
But I did see Ace at Bill Aucoin's memorial down in Florida. So, yes. We exchanged. I mean, he gave me his phone number, and I said, I already have that one, but that doesn't work. It's like it's his cell phone, and it's like he probably, screens it. So he picks up whenever he's in the mood. He does pick up, though. He does pick up sometimes.
And Peter, do you speak with Peter? What's your relationship with Peter after so many decades? And I mean, you are known as Lydia Criss. You still carry his name. What's your relationship with him?
Well, right now, I don't really talk to Peter. The last time I saw Peter was at Bill Aucoin's memorial. But when we did see each other, it had been about 14, 15 years before the last time I had seen him. Mm-hmm. We were talking very politely. We sat, we took pictures. I mean, he was a sweetheart. Even my boyfriend Richie was talking to him, and he was great. He was really great. It's just I think the last. I don't think his wife, his wife is not a big fan of mine. And I don't know why, but I've only met her once.
Yeah.
But I heard a lot of people aren't crazy about her. So
that's Gigi.
You know what it is? I think Peter makes her the bad cop and he's the good cop.
Okay. Do you miss the old days? Do you miss 73, 74 before they were stars? When they were just, 4 New York guys that you could just buddy around with and have a beer with, and do you miss those old days?
I do. I do miss the days where everything is, there's a goal. There's a goal to reach, and it's fun getting there. I miss, having them over for dinner and. The days where you struggle a little and you say to yourself, well, you're doing it because something good's going to come out of it. Mm-hmm. And, there were the very early days where, people would just look at them like they were off the wall, mm-hmm. With the makeup and stuff. And, my family, especially,
yes.
I mean, plus I was working at the time. I had to go and explain this to the people I worked with too, so, I mean, but it was all good because of the way it all ended. They did make a success. And the funniest thing is I worked for a multimillionaire that was my last job. And he was a philanthropist and he lived in Greenwich, Connecticut. His father was one of the founders of Sears Roebuck. I'll never forget telling my job, they fired me because I was supposed to go to work one day and I asked for the day off to be with Peter because he said he was freaking out and he needed me somewhere on the West Coast. And they told me I couldn't have the day off and I took it anyway. So they wound up firing me about, months later. But I think the thrill that I got was telling them that I was moving to Greenwich, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest thrill I got, after cleaning out the office and everything. And I came back, oh, by the way, I went back, years later and I said, I'm moving to Greenwich because that was like, that was money.
Well, those are some of the nicer pictures in the book because I'm the kind of person I'll go to someone's home and I'll love to look at photo albums. I just like to see, family, having family time and doing family things. And there's some great photos in here of just you and Peter and your dog. I think it's Tara.
Tara,
yeah, this big English sheepdog, and just beautiful photos of the grounds and the house. And I really enjoy looking at those. It's not Kiss related at all. It's just a glimpse into another time. Like I said, I was probably about 10 years old at that time.
Yeah, that was actually the first month we lived there, mm-hmm. and we were going up to Rockport, which is Peter's favorite place up in. Actually, that's where I read in his book that he always told me this, but I read that he wants his ashes. He wants to be cremated and his ashes spread on Rockport, in the ocean. And we were on our way up, but for some reason we got a late start, so we said, let's go tomorrow, and we'll just hang around the house today. And we took pictures all day long, and that's some of the photos that are in the book.
Excellent pictures, really nice. And of course, are you still working professionally as a photographer now?
Not really. I don't really go to rock shows. I mean, I go to shows, but I don't go. I've seen so many of the people I want to see so many times.
Yes.
And it's not the same thing anymore. It's, taking a photo, you got to fight with the photographers to get, and I'm little, so it's like hard, you got these big guys that, that are always in your way. And, so I basically, I spent a lot of years selling my book, so I didn't have time to be a photographer anymore. I take pictures when I go on vacation. That's my favorite right now.
Yeah, and you've got some great photos of other people that you've met, Keith Richard and Tony Bennett, Peter Frampton. There's all kinds of, it's not just a book about Kiss, but it's also a book about your rock photography.
Well, that's my life after Kiss. It's the book is in three sections, before Kiss, during Kiss, which is the biggest section, and then after Kiss. It's like I have this photo where I'm kind of looking back, and it's like I'm looking, or no, am I looking? I don't know. They said it. The guys that did the book said it's sort of like you're looking back at what your life was after Kiss.
Yes, you must meet a lot of Kiss fans over the years. You go to expos and conventions. What's the one question you get asked almost all the time and you say, I just wish they never asked that? And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to avoid asking you the question that you don't want to be asked.
The thing that I get asked the most is, they actually ask me this question. What are the questions that you get asked the most? One of them is, why is Beck called Beth? Or why is, that the song Beck and Beth?
Yeah.
The other one is, I think there's maybe only two that I can think of right now, but the other one is, did you ever do it with the makeup on? And the answer to that is no.
Have you ever put on a Peter Criss costume and some makeup and gone out to a Halloween ball?
No, I've never put his makeup on. None of the guys' makeup on. I've never had white. I did have white face one year. I dressed as a geisha girl.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I had a beautiful outfit from Japan. So I that was one after I was divorced. I was a geisha girl one year. I did do whiteface.
So now the Kiss world knows you as Lydia Criss, the former wife of Peter Criss. But if you weren't that, who would Lydia? Is it DiLeonardo? Did I pronounce that right? Who is Lydia DiLeonardo? Like, what is it?
Well, Lydia DiLeonardo. See, this is what I tell everyone. I never had the dream to be an author, and I am an author, and I'm also a publisher. I self-published my book, but that was never my dream in life. My dream in life was just to grow up, raise a family, and I'd probably be a little fat Italian lady by now.
And I hear you make.
Not that I'm skinny, but I'm not as fat as most Italian ladies are.
And I understand you make an amazing spaghetti sauce.
Oh, I do. It's my mother's recipe, but Peter once told her, because my mother said, well, how's Lydia's lasagna? How's Lydia's sauce? Yeah. And he goes, to be honest with you, Ma, I think it's better than yours. You don't tell that to my mother.
and
I stood there with my mouth open. I'm going, oh my God.
And I believe you're trying to market the spaghetti sauce in some way?
That would be one thing I would love to do, but I just don't know where to start. I'd love to bottle it,
I had a thought of what if Gene got on that and marketed it as Beth spaghetti sauce?
That's a good idea. But you know what the problem with, and this is probably what's holding me back, is I don't want to put any preservatives in it.
Yes.
Because I want it to taste the way I taste it. And I think if you put preservatives, it might change the taste. But I spoke to Bill Coyne about it years ago before he passed away. And he didn't really know what to tell me except start with a small grocery store, like a small chain, like in your neighborhood. Yeah. And the thing is, all the stores in my neighborhood, they make their own sauce, so I wasn't too sure where to go from there. But Gene would be a great idea. Maybe when after the documentary's out,
Yeah.
I'll approach him.
What do you think of the Kiss merchandising? I mean, they've made some neat things from T-shirts to action figures, but they've also made some ridiculous things like the Kiss casket and a $3,500 monster book. What do you think of those things?
Well, like you said, some are ridiculous and some aren't. Like I'm amazed that I'm assuming people approach them with an idea because I can't imagine how they can think of golf clubs.
Yeah.
When you don't even play golf.
Yeah.
I think there was somebody, I just was listening to an interview that Paul did. I listened to it this morning. It was actually on how Paul lost his virginity. But but it wasn't mainly, it wasn't mainly that. There was a guy with him that opened up a beer store, some beer cafe, and he had a few of them, like in Redondo Beach, one in El Segundo, one in the airport. And I don't know what if I was expecting Kiss to be involved in that, but I'm going, but they're not really drinkers. But then they do have a wine.
Yeah, that's right. They had beer and wine.
They had a wine at one point, so.
The condom.
I'm sure if there's money to be made, Gene will overlook certain things.
Exactly. Yeah, the condom seems to make sense, but.
Yeah, I know.
So if I just threw some names at you very quickly, if you could give me like a 1 or 2 word response, or maybe just a short sentence, just your thought. Gene Simmons.
Intellectual.
Intellectual. Paul Stanley.
Talented.
Ace Frehley.
Funny.
Peter Criss.
Warm when he wants to be.
Bill Aucoin.
Bill Aucoin was great, just the greatest.
Mm-hmm. Sean Delaney.
Another one, talented and a wonderful person.
Did you get to meet Eric Carr? I know you met Eric Carr. Did you spend much time with Eric Carr?
Eric Carr was my favorite member of Kiss.
Really? Yeah.
Well, at one point, everybody used to ask me, "Who's your favorite member?" I've only met him a few times, but the few times that I did meet him, he was a sweetheart.
Wow, that's great. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer tonight. This has been, without a doubt, the thrill of my week to speak with Lydia Criss. Her book is called Sealed with a Kiss. Now, every Kiss fan should have this. That's right?
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to hold it up, but I realize I'm not recording video at the moment. How can people find your book?
Okay, my book is it's sold on my website, www.lydiacriss.com, and on Amazon. It's about 5 pounds. It's a big coffee table book, almost 400 pages. And some of about 1,500 unseen photos and about 120,000 word text.
And are you still
full color?
Are you still signing them personally each
Oh
copy?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Because I had my book for about almost a year, and I guess maybe those pages stuck together. I don't know. And one day I just opened it up again, and there it was. You had autographed it personally to me, and that was really something a nice touch.
Where did you get it from? My website?
I got it. Believe I got it from Amazon. I know I got it from Amazon because.
Oh, so yeah, because I do. It's funny. A lot of fans, when they order from Amazon, they don't know that it's available signed and unsigned. Mm-hmm. I just saw it today, but for some reason, when I went on looking for it a couple of months ago, I couldn't find the signed version. But a lot of fans. Oh, and you could also, if you can catch me at an expo, I definitely sell my books at expos, and. I might be doing a bookstore signing in Jersey in a couple of months. I have to talk to the owner of the store. He invited me when I did my last expo. Unfortunately, I don't have a distributor, so they don't like to distribute self-published books for some reason. Yeah. And I have approached Barnes and Noble, and they gave me some ridiculous deal that I had to lower the price of my book, and I had to lower it not only with them but with everybody. Mm-hmm. I turned that down, and the other thing is, sometimes I will get some people that own stores that will buy a lot of books, and they'll sell them in a store, like not necessarily a bookstore, There's a store called Retroactive in Myrtle Beach. There was a store out in California. There's a store. I would love to have sold it in the Kiss Monster Mini Golf, but
Yeah, or the Kiss Cafe, maybe.
I have a feeling the Nazi photos might have held that back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great book. I think that every Kiss fan should have one because it really is. It's more affordable than Kisstory. There's no doubt about it.
Way more affordable.
Oh, way more affordable. I do have a copy of Kisstory. I bought mine. I think I got mine used on eBay, so I paid maybe half of what they were asking. But no, I was quite excited to get this book and quite excited to see that you had hand signed it. And just the most amazing treasure trove of Kiss artifacts, photos, receipts, and I just love the matchbook from Jeanette and Paul's wedding.
That actually, I just had it in I had it in an auction.
Oh, you auctioned
and that sold along with the matchbook from my wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Astronomical. I'm not even going to tell you the price, but somebody.
Gene Simmons just sold some chewing gum.
I don't believe that. Do you believe that?
That's ridiculous.
I don't believe. No, mine wasn't that astronomical. I'm talking a couple of hundred. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Just one other question before we leave. I notice on a lot of the receipts, and this is just something I'm curious about. On a lot of the receipts I see, it'll say Peter. Is it Criscola or Criscula? How would you pronounce that?
It's actually Criscuola.
Criscuola, okay.
Criscuola. That's the Italian pronunciation, but we always said Criscola.
Okay, so he would go by that name. I mean, obviously his Visa cards and his driver's license would have those names on it. Peter Criss is a stage name. And I guess your legal name at that time was also Criscola?
Yes.
Yeah, so at some point in time you would have to then legally change it, or is it still...
No.
What is your legal name now?
Actually, Peter changed his legally, and I was remarried, and at the time when I got divorced, my name was always Lydia Criss for professional reasons.
Yes.
And that was a suggestion by my agent. She said, please don't change your name. You can't, no, everybody knows you as Lydia Criss and you're selling photos as Lydia Criss.
Yeah. So
she asked me to keep the name. And I actually once approached Peter and he just looked at me like I had three heads. But his brother was there and he goes, yeah, come back with, the name. I didn't want to go back to Criscola. If anything, I would have went back to DeLeonardo. But it's too long. You always have to spell it out.
Yes.
Even way before Kiss, me and Peter were Chris. Yeah. Way before Kiss.
Oh, really?
So that was, Gene, I just heard him do an interview where he takes credit for that we made him change his name to Chris, and that's not true because we were Chris, for things that you don't need something legal, like like if you go to the cleaners and you leave your shirt there, they said, "What's your last name?" You say Chris.
I see what you mean.
That's
yes,
it.
Yeah.
Only thing it was with one S, and then what happened was Peter had a friend that was a printer, and when he had his infamous Have Drum Will Travel cards, his business cards made up by this printer, he put two Chris's. So and it just was a coincidence that Kiss was Kiss's two S's. What
was that intentional or was it just an error?
No, it was an error by his friend, the printer. That was actually, he was a printer to make money, but he was also a musician in the Sounds of Soul and all of Peter's younger, his previous bands.
Yes.
Brotherhood and Vintage, all the bands that he was in, prior to Kiss.
Well, I wish I could talk all night, but I don't want to keep you.
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for meeting with me tonight and allowing me to record.
Oh, you're so welcome. I do get your show sent to me from the other Jeff.
Yes.
And I don't get to read it listen to it right away, but I do listen to it because I just find it so amusing that you know so much.
It's I mean, I have interest in so many things. I'm also a photographer, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a high school teacher, but Kiss is just one of those things that, everyone's got a passion, and Kiss is my passion. And
and I love your opinions. That's something that I agree with a lot.
Yeah. And disagree. And if there's something you disagree with, or if we say something that's in error, by all means make a comment through Facebook or on YouTube and whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for meeting with me tonight, and
you're so welcome.
I wish you so much luck with the book, and maybe we'll get a chance to chat again sometime.
Okay. Sure. I'm sure we will.
Good night,
all right,
Lydia.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Good night, Beth.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.